Welcome to the first episode in the Intro to Reloading series. Today we're going to be taking this laminate ply beam here and turning it into a mobile reloading bench, as seen here. Let's get to it. It is also worth noting that this video is optimized for viewing on mobile devices. Please click the icon shown on screen for full screen view. We start by squaring up the end of each piece, as they were significantly out of square to begin with. The only downside here was that the board was significantly wider than my miter saw blade and required 2 cuts from each side, plus a reciprocating saw cut in the middle to get the ends fully cut off. This could have also been done with a handsaw, but I could only find the recip saw. Well, I couldn't find the handsaw, so it worked. The wood blade did give a very fine cut, and I didn't have any issues getting the ends squared up and sanded smooth. After cutting the ends, I took the belt sander with an 80 grit belt and smoothed out the edges to prep them for final sanding. After that, I also took the belt sander and sanded the main faces of the boards. This creates a ton of dust, so dust mask is crucial. It also takes a while, and is good exercise as that sander has quite a lot of torque. It does make very quick work of sanding that surface smooth though. After belt sanding both sides, I switched over to using the random orbit sander to give it a finer finish. I first started with 80 grit, then 120, 220, and on the front face I even went up as high as 320, just to get a clean, smooth finish. To protect the finish, I opted to use this Helmsman Spar Urethane, which is rated for outside. I applied it, as you can see here, in multiple thin coats. I think I did 4 on the face, I believe, and 2 on the back. As you can see in the pictures, it came out quite nice actually. This is rated for UV exposure, which will be part of this being outside. After it had cured, it was time to lay out everything on the surface and figure out where all the individual components were going to be. I opted to set the quick mount bench base 6 inches off from the side to allow for either a die box or cartridge box or whatever on the side. To the left of it, I wanted to put the loading block for easy access, a couple acro bins here to store components while loading, you can see there I laid it out a little bit better. The acro bins for components, as I said, loading block on front. The Milwaukee battery on the side is going to be where the scale is going to be, and the Milwaukee drill bit set in the back is going to be where the powder measure will be, as you can see here. Powder measure will have an overhang, and you'll be able to load the cartridges that are in the loading block from there. Now it's time to get this squared up, the board marked, and everything drilled for installation. Grab my speed square, make sure this is square here. The overhang on the front is important as there's 2 wing nuts that go underneath here to actually hold the quick change plate that mounts to the press onto the base. So that overhang is crucial. 6 inches off from the edge, and we are good for marking. I just use a Sharpie here to mark the centers. And then pick the base off the top of the wood. We're using, I think those are 2-inch flat Phillips machine screws, which are countersunk into the base, and then will be attached in the bottom to 1/4-20 T-nuts with the barbs. I'm going to be pre-drilling these, or at least starting the holes, with a 3/8 Forstner bit. This creates an extremely clean hole, and even though this is oversized, it will prevent any tear out on the surface of that laminate ply. After that, I'll be finishing up with a regular 1/4" bit, and then a 5/16 counterbore up from the bottom for those T-nuts. Starting off with that 3/8 Forstner. The other benefit of this is it has a very fine point, which means you get a very accurate start position on where your hole is going to be. The bit doesn't walk at all. And threw in a little cutaway here so you can see it up close. Not drilling very deep, just enough to get it started and to break through that first layer. Helps prevent any tear out on that surface. And there we go, it's looking good. Now just to do the other 3. With the initial surface drill done, it's time to switch over to that 1/4" drill bit and drill all the way through. And 4. There we are. Clean off the dust. Now if you note from the bottom, we're still not able to insert those T-nuts as they have a 5/16 shank. This requires that counterbore I mentioned, drilling up through about 1/2 inch, a little more, with that 7/16, or with a 5/16 rather, bit. This will give the T-nuts the clearance they need to slide up in. Clean off the little chips there. As you can see, they slide right up in until the point where the barbs hit. It's exactly what we want. Moving up to the top side, we've got our spacer plate, which you have to use with the quick change plate if you're not routing it into the surface. And the quick change plate itself. Let's get those lined up with the holes. And I opted to drop the machine screws first, get everything lined up. Once the machine screws are in, I figured they'd be a Phillips number 3, which they were. You get the best possible fit on those Phillips head, you reduce the chance of cam out. Loading that in there, into my M18 Surge. Love that impact driver, by the way. So quiet, and it's very smooth and controllable. Getting that set on the Phillips head from the top, and pushing the T-nut in from the bottom. And tightening up on that machine screw pulls the T-nut right up into the wood, no hammering involved. Repeating that for 2 more. Make sure we don't cross the wood there. And then this one I zoomed in on so you can see a little bit better. Once we get it lined up, so the threads align, just pulls it right up in. So satisfying. And now with those in, the bottom look good. Nice and flush, make sure they're not protruding down at all. And then up top. That's our quick change base plate, installed, ready to go. You can see here where I have the impact laying is where the loading block will actually sit. The 2 acro bins behind it for components, right in there. Where the screwdriving bit set is, where the powder measure is going to sit. Stay tuned for future video on the powder measure bracket and installation of that. and where the drill bits were there in the front. Over here, some space for dies, shell boxes, and stuff. And now it's time to actually mount our press. This is the Redding Big Boss 2 that I brought with me. There's those wing nuts I mentioned. Got to thread those up from the bottom. And that is why you need the proper clearance off the face. There's the other one, and that's all there is to it. Whenever you need to move this press, say you're taking it over to a friend's house, helping him load, whatever, you just take those wing nuts off, lift the press off, and then just carry the board as the base. You can attach it to a table, you can attach it to a deck like this is, however you want to do it. It's portable. This setup allows plenty of space on the top for storing stuff as you're working, so you don't have to worry about having enough tabletop or desktop space. It also gives the added rigidity that you'd expect from a laminate ply beam of this size. As you can see here, plenty of room to do what we need to do, move those cases back and forth, access components, check our powder if we need to, fill more powder, store stuff on the side. I think that's a pretty decent portable reloading setup. Stay tuned for future episodes of the Intro to Reloading series. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell on the side so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thanks as always. If you have any questions, let us know, and keep on reloading.